Welcome to our very first Bystronic BackstageLab. My name is Stefan Lendy.
And I'm Natalie Tulev. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Energy prices are skyrocketing, resource markets are highly volatile, and we are facing global supply chain constraints.
Our ecosystems are dying. We are losing biodiversity and are facing ever-rising social inequalities. We are having major challenges for our planet, for our society, and for our economy.
If we are considering decarbonization as a solution, this will not be enough, as decarbonization can only reduce 55% of the total emissions that we need to reduce. Hence, we also need to look at our resources, the way we produce and use products and materials.
Circular economy and resource efficiency can achieve the missing 45% of the needed emissions reduction.
Well, today we would like to inspire and motivate, and together with Bystronic's customers, its value chain partners and its competitors, enable and implement future-fit circular solutions.
And we are having an exciting hour ahead of us. We are starting off with Anders Breitholz, a circular economy and materials expert and CEO of his own company, PaperShell. He will help us to understand what the circular economy stands for and what we can do to make it happen.
Just about then, we will continue with Johannes Brennick, who is responsible for product ecology and certification at furniture manufacturer König und Neurath.
And last but not least, Michael Prager, the Sustainability and ESG Officer, will present the measures taken by Bystronic and will show us how co-creation can lead to the desired business impact.
And we will end this hour with a lively discussion on the status quo, on future steps that we need to take and how we can create the desired impact by joint collaboration.
And you at home, you are welcome to ask your questions during the live stream. We would like to hear your insights, your views, and we are happy to pick up your questions during our panel talk.
We've already received some of those questions beforehand, so thank you for those. But let's get started with our very first guest, with Anders Breitholz from Gothenburg. Anders is a material and circular economy expert. He's passionate about materials, about their origin, their use, and of course about their future life. Anders recently co-founded the high-impact transformative startup PaperShell, which reverses the cycle and builds paper back into a more resistant version of wood. He has worked over 20 years in material and management consulting, managing material libraries, creating events and fairs, as well as co-founding a number of startups. Let's get started with him. Hello, Anders. How are you doing today?
Hello, Stefan. Great introduction. I really liked how you picture the challenges with sustainability.
Well, we're excited to hear more from you about the circular economy and, of course, about PaperShell.
Thank you. And I have a few minutes to try to sort of explain circular economy and sort of some key takeaways and what I've learned from working with this subject. So I'll try to guide you through this. Starting off, I mean, like they mentioned, I've spent 20 years working with advanced, innovative and sustainable materials for many of the sort of Fortune 500 companies. And often these projects have been centered around sustainability, because most, or I would say absolutely the lion part of all big companies have now committed to Agenda 2030, and we have 8 years to go. So how do we do this? The subject today is circular economy, and that's sort of an operational approach to the sustainability challenges. And there's a lot that can be said, but I like to think of it as just looking at these two words. You have circular and you have economy. And if we start with the circular, that has to do with resource management. It has to do with resource efficiency. This diagram is a simplified version of the famous butterfly diagram, but let's sort of start and look at sort of the linear economy here. We have the take part, where you take things out of the ground. It could be sort of mining or turning sort of oil into plastics or woods into paper and so on. And then we have a make step. And this is where many of you in the audience are. We're manufacturing components, or we're making products. And then we have a use phase, where we private people are often. And then we have a dispose phase. And in the linear economy, we take and we sort of have this value adding, and then we lose the value down here. So the whole sort of idea with circular economy and the resource efficiency is about not losing it, getting it back to the system. And the smaller the loops, the better. So if I'm not using this product, perhaps someone else should be using it. Or if I have waste in the company, maybe I can put it to use someplace else in my production, or perhaps my neighbor has waste or it can use my waste. And also, I mean, here on the biological side, it has to do with sort of getting things back into the natural system. What I really like is circular economy comes from sort of the sustainability world. And the founder, Ellen MacArthur, she did a very smart thing, I think. She teamed up with management consultants and talked about sustainability, but through the eyes of economy, sort of the business world. And instead of, having this guilt trip and we have to move back into the cave, we cannot, lead the lives that we're leading, it was more like, how can we decouple the resource use to the economic world that sort of drives our societies? So just sort of break this down. And there's a lot of things that we can talk about here, but I'm going to take two things. And we who work in the industry, we have an ongoing sustainability project that we're not thinking about so much, and that is lean. Lean is the war on waste. It's actually sort of like, how can we be more time efficient or energy efficient? But it's absolutely sort of a sustainability aspect, because if we, waste less, we become more efficient, and at the same time we're reducing costs. So I think that if you want to get started with your sustainability journey or your circular economy journey, just go back to that lean board and think about, okay, this is actually sustainability going on today. Another thing I think is that it's not only about resource management. It's also about thinking about how do we make our incomes or our revenue. I chose this picture because we are in Switzerland now, and I just wanted an example of a product that has a high material efficiency. Because when we rent skis, you go to the ski rental and you rent them. That means that I use them for 1 week and then someone else is using it. So this is sort of a quite simple example of where the business models are changing, going from the actual product to the function that you're looking for. And there are plenty of examples here. So if we project that onto the industry and how we're supposed to work with this, I think that one major thing has to do with, we cannot do this on our own. We have to start collaborating. We have to start figuring out what the system solutions look like. So, for example, here I just made an example here. Here's a furniture industry example. That if we start to collaborate, no matter where we are in the value chain, together we can make an impact. I mean, so say that we have 8 years to go to 2030, and that means a reduction of 10% in CO2 gases. Like, if we team up with a value chain and say, hey guys, let's do this together. Let's see if we can together, find ways where we can, reduce. And if you take 1% and I take 2%, together we can sort of compile this. And sort of ending off here, I think that we have to shift the mindset from thinking like, how can we get our materials to work better? How can we get higher material efficiency? How can we go from selling products to functions? And what are the new business opportunities within this field? So, I'm wrapping it up. There's a lot to talk about this, but I guess we will be talking about that later on today.
Anders, thank you so much for telling us what circular is all about, what the economy is about, and especially as we're in Switzerland, for using all those examples with snow and with skis and so on. That really helps our understanding here in Switzerland. Talk to me more about your company, Paper Shell, that you've recently founded. What is the company all about?
Well, it's working, seeing all this material, seeing the needs from the automotive industry or the furniture industry, and basically everyone was saying the same. We are committed. Our top management has committed to sustainability, and middle management wanted to find something, and it's quite hard to find solutions that comply towards sort of a bioeconomy and so on. So I thought, take something out of the Nordic countries, like paper. There's a vast process industry, and instead of turning it into packaging material, why not sort of go the other way? Why not learn from nature? I'm not saying I'm even close to nature, but we're quite happy that we have sort of built back, taken the cellulose and the hemicellulose and built back a wood.
How is that possible? You're saying we're taking papers as something that has been made out of wood, and we're turning it back into that original material.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Well, there are several steps, but it's quite basic. I mean, the cellulose fiber is fantastic in itself. So we take that cellulose paper, the cellulose fiber in the paper, and then we feed back in something that used to be in the wood that has been taken out. That's actually a waste stream. And what happens is then we bring it back. Here you have the material. This is what it looks like.
It looks beautiful, that we can say. So aesthetically, you're doing well.
Yeah, well, we have some sort of automotive designers who are really into sort of color and trim here. But there are some interesting features when you put them back. Is that you can trim so it doesn't burn, or it can handle UV in a different way that wood can't. So using waste and upcycling can give new possibilities. So
what is your material called?
It's called Paper Shell at the moment, but we're getting sort of different version of it as well. So it's going to be new names. But something I think is interesting. I mean, just look at the impact of, here's aluminium, and this is just sort of a climate impact, sort of CO2 equivalents. And so it's very, very small. It's less impact than veneer.
What you've shown us the material, and it looks beautiful. You said car manufacturers are interested in the material. Who else is interested in the material? How can it be used, and how does its usage or its usage possibilities compare to wood? Yeah, it started off as just can we do a chair seat, in the furniture industry, and then we realized that because I showed it to some interior designers within the automotive industry, and they're like, oh, it has its own identity. And then from there, we experience of the strength and the features as it has. And I thought maybe we should do a sports video on this. So we teamed up with the sports kid, the skateboard kids. And at the moment, it's like it's 20 automotive companies that have contacted us. It's sports, it's furniture, consumer goods, because everyone is hunting for something that is, fossil-free. And ours is 100% fossil-free, so that's nice. It is ecological. What about the financial side to this? Yeah, it's a very it's a good question. Is it cost efficient? That is the question. So bring it down to the level. No one has mentioned that it's too expensive. Often they say that going back, it's like, oh, can we afford this? No, it's like, but have you even asked the price? So when they hear the price, it's like, okay. So I think, a narrative in this is that you can take something and you can upcycle it, and you can have this sort of, you can use aesthetics within the value perception also. Let's talk about the sheet metal industry briefly. Yeah. What can the sheet metal industry learn from you? What can the sheet metal industry learn from Paper Shell? Yeah. It's a good. I would say I would reverse the question, because we have actually used the sheet metal industry. We thought we were working with the wood, but actually we're very close to sheet metal sort of compression. So you're saying you've actually learned from the sheet metal industry for your work? Yeah, and there's interesting automation there, and but it's also sort of crossbreeding with the textile industry, crossbreeding with the wood and the wood industry. So it's very much sort of trying to combine different knowledges from different industries. What specifically can we learn? I do want to bring up that question again. We've heard what you've learned from the sheet metal industry. What can we learn from you?
I think that it's all about opening up new collaborations. I think that what we see is that you have this. I don't know the word in English, but
feel free to explain.
Yeah,
just talk around it and
Swedish,
explain it for us there.
But it means like when you're in the tea, so we're into the metal sheet industry and they're into the textile and they're in,
Yeah.
I think that this cross pollination is where innovation happens. And I think that, it's very seldom a product is only one material. It's a combination of many.
So what are the different, give me some of the questions that we need to ask to make our economy more circular, to approach this concept?
I would say I really like this event because you are here's the tier one suppliers and it's not the OEMs. And I think what's happening now is that it's being pushed up through the value chain. So I would say that the sheet metal industry should be prepared for, what about traceability things? What about computer, data interaction, compatibility, high flexibility and stuff like that?
Flexibility is one of the words. It takes a lot of flexibility to turn a business more circular, to approach circular economy, right? Mm.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the pandemics. In the furniture in Sweden, they lost 80% of their turnover. And they couldn't sort of change their production to doing something else because they were stuck in the linear economy. Mm-hmm. So I think that was a wake-up call for many that what if we have more or higher flexibility or we can do things in a different way? Maybe we can absorb the fluctuations better in the future. Mm-hmm.
So less fluctuations where we can better absorb them. Mm. If we're talking about a more flexible production, can we consider a mobile production in the future even?
I love that question. I think that, I briefly sort of touched upon industrial symbiosis, where you share waste or resources or energy or knowledge. But that's going in one step further. Having these mobile production sites, it's been discussed more sort of on a concept level, but I kind of like that. It could also be mobile recycling plants. So there is something there. And I would really, that's an interesting question.
We have to think further down that line, and we'll talk further down that line later in our panel, for which you will be joining us as well. So Anders Breitholtz, for the time being, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time and dedication. Natalie, let's bring you back up on stage. This has been really interesting, taking paper and turning paper back into wood.
That was really interesting. Thank you, Stefan, and also Anders, for the insight into circular economy in general and the viewpoint of a novel, innovative material company. Now we're changing focus and look at the journey of a furniture manufacturer, Koenig and Neurath from Germany. They present their ongoing journey towards circularity and share with us their values, customer perspective and success stories, but also their challenges and lessons learned.
An interesting company with Johannes Brennig, responsible for product ecology and certification at Koenig and Neurath. We will discuss in just a few moments how materials can be processed, how they can be merged, and how they can be used sustainably.
Before we talk to Johannes, we will start with a short introduction video by Koenig and Neurath. Enjoy.
At K&N, we take our social responsibility very serious. We are aware of the necessary changes. Our goal is to find solutions for the ecological challenges of our time. All our decisions are also considered on the basis of their ecological impact. By acting with foresight, we ensure that we set the right course for the sustainable future of our company.
An interesting company. I'm looking forward to learning more. Stefan, you are with Johannes Bystronic, right?
Exactly, Johannes. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for all your insights into König und Neurath. Really excited to hear from you about the circular economy. What role has the circular economy taken at König und Neurath over the past few months and years?
So first thing, thanks a lot for having me here.
Very welcome.
We are involved in the circular economy as we know about our responsibility as an industrial company. This means we know about the environmental challenges of our time. Of course, to name the climate change, already today we have an average temperature rise from 1.2 degrees Celsius, and we know the huge risks which are connected with that. We have a huge loss of biodiversity going on for decades and still going on today. And we have a huge problem with environmental pollution caused through plastics, which are not correctly disposed of and land in our landscapes and in our oceans.
So we're talking about huge challenges. How are you addressing those challenges today, let's say at the product level?
The first thing is that we see the circular economy as a solution for these problems I mentioned, and that we also see that the politics give us good frameworks now. They are publishing strategies like the European Green Deal, the Circular Economy Action Plan, and the Sustainable Products Initiative, which we really welcome.
So that's something you can follow at the corporate level as well.
Yeah, so maybe to give you some insights about the aspects we are already implementing on company level, on product level, and also our extended producer responsibility. Then to start at company level, it is to say that being careful with resources, being careful with our environment, and be respectful with people is deeply incorporated in our DNA. We have established an environmental management system since 1996. We certified it according to the International Management Norm for Environmental Management Systems in 1998. We have a photovoltaic plant running since the year 2000. We generate our heat energy by burning our own wood residues. I think there are many aspects
so
to
pretty
name.
much you do whatever it takes.
Yeah, we can say it. And maybe to come to the product level then, there are of course standards, guidelines which help us. And just to mention a few of them, for Germany very relevant, it's the Blue Angel certification, which is really rightly known there. The European level certification, which is a standard published by the European Association of Office Furniture, and the cradle-to-cradle product philosophy, which gives us a good guideline which materials we can use, which should we avoid. And connected to these standards are the key elements for circular product design. So products, of course, must be recyclable, they must be repairable, retrofittable. We should avoid non-detachable connections, so gluing is never a good idea. When we talk about circularity, materials we're using should be harmless. They should always contain recycling content, and at the end, of course, must be recyclable again.
So technically everything that we put together, we must be able to take apart again, and whatever parts actually come apart, we have to be able to use again in a different way.
This is exactly what it's going through. And maybe to bring another aspect inside is the extended producer responsibility, which is for us really important, that our responsibility does not end at the gate of König und Neurath, but that it will stay at the whole product life. Means we offer services, we have an own customer service, we have a specialist trade network which support our customers with repairing solutions, with spare parts if needed.
So just help me understand. So if my furniture breaks, then I can just go, I can ring you up and say, listen, I need help repairing my furniture, and you will find whatever materials are needed, and you will help me get this done.
Yes, so with the goal to keep furniture in use as long as possible. And this is also another important aspect. Of course, furniture have no expiry date, so they can be in use for decades. But if a customer of us wants to get rid or want to sell their used furniture, we also help there together with partners to offer this furniture at the second-hand market.
Now, that sounds really interesting. So even after 10 or 20 years of using a piece of furniture, I can ring you up and say, listen, I don't want this any longer. My style has changed, my taste has changed, I'm moving apartment. Can you take this back, or can you help me sell it? And your door is open, you're saying, yes, even after 20 or 30 years, we're here to help you get rid of that piece of furniture.
That's correct.
Even if we have to take it to the flea market, you will do that for me.
Yeah, we will support our customers with this service, yeah.
Wow, this sounds like a huge project with a lot to do. Are there any obstacles, any hurdles towards this?
Yes, I brought 4 aspects for, name some hurdles. The one thing is cooperation and communication. The second one is data. The third one is our customer requirements, which can contradict sustainability requirements. And the fourth point are materials, which are not made for circularity.
Let's start with cooperation and collaboration. Who do you collaborate with? Who do you need to collaborate with?
Yeah, so of course it's important to have a collaboration with all our stakeholders, but I want to point out especially the collaboration with recycling companies, as we have no really business contracts with them, so we have no direct feedback, and it is important for us when we have a theoretically high recyclable rate that it's really also practical done. So this feedback would be very important for us, and we will work in future to have this communication also with recycling bodies.
So I know we have some recycling companies that are watching us right now. So your call out to them is, do get in touch with us. Do talk to us about what your needs are so we can collaborate better. The second point you mentioned is data. What kind of data is important? It's all about big data. The more, the better. Is that true in the furniture industry as well?
Yes, maybe to give the concrete example. You know from your food there's an ingredients list. So you do know exactly what is inside your food, which is really important when you have food allergies, for example. When we look for whole components, for example, a gas spring in your chair or a castor roll, there it is not obligatory to declare all contents. This means that there's a lack of information for us. We, of course, know the main material, but we don't know every detail. This would be important for us and also for recycling companies. And there's also a connected problem when it would be obligatory to declare all contents in the components. Then that would lead to a huge amount of data, and we have to manage this. And there is another solution going on. It's called a digital product passport, which they aim to store all environmental information of a product, and this could also contain these ingredients list of a product.
Even if we talk about data that is important, ultimately it is all about the customer. Are there any customer requirements that might contradict sustainability, that might contradict sustainability criteria that you consider to be important?
Yeah, just also to give one example, it's white plastics. As for us, it's not possible to have recycling content in a white plastic, as there are color deviations on the market, and this would lead for us to customer complaints. So we go for recycling materials in black plastics, so post-consumer, post-industrial material we can use there. So it would be a better choice to use to demand a black plastic.
I do just want to very, very briefly just take a minute to talk about the future at K&N. What is coming up regarding the business model? What kind of changes are we expecting there?
Yeah, so this is one important point about business models, as we see that the demand for new furniture will decrease in the future, and the demand for second-hand remanufactured furniture will rise. Our actual business model is to sell new furniture, and so there must be a change. We have to find intelligent solutions for it, and we are working on it now.
What about production and processes? How are those affected?
Yeah, so we, of course, will further improve our production and processes, means adding new technologies, searching for new, innovative, sustainable materials. This will lead to a further decrease of energy consumption and a significant reduction in CO2 emissions.
That sounds great for the environment. What about the human factor? Last but not least, that is of utter importance.
Yeah, so this is, for me, a very important point, as normally we are talking about technical properties like repairability, like durability, but in the end, there's a human who is using our product, and there's also a mindset to help us, for example, that there is a demand for, I want to have a used furniture, not a new one, and this throwaway mentality we have in our days, this is important to get rid of it. And so this is a soft skill, I would say, but it is a very important soft skill. We should, of course, talk about it.
We have to talk to society about this, and we will talk about this later in our panel. Johannes, thank you so much for joining us for the time being, and we'll see you later. Natalie, this is absolutely interesting, right? So you have a piece of furniture, don't throw it away. Although your taste might change, but bring it back to life even after 20 or 30 years, or have them take it to the flea market. That's another option that we have there.
I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed, Stefan. And I guess you take a lot with you from this talk.
I'm taking a lot with me, actually, and for all of us, there's a lot to take with us. There are various drivers and motivations for a circular economy, but also external pressure to be fit for the future. The focus, I think, is currently on the product itself, but in the future, there will also be changes concerning business models. Consumer behavior, that seems to be another important factor as well. So co-creation is key. You cannot do it alone, but you need to work along the value chain. That's what's truly important.
All right, and why we don't talk about the sheet metal industry right now with Michael Prager. He's the Sustainability and ESG Officer at Bystronic. Michael, please join us and let's talk about Bystronic.
Hey, Michael, how are you today?
Hey, very good. How are you?
Good to see you.
So, Michael, Bystronic, what does this company do?
Well, Bystronic is a sheet metal processing and technology company. We have evolved from a machine manufacturer towards a full solution powerhouse. I think we have multiple things to offer for our customers, where we have laser and bending technology, fully automation, invested heavily into software and smart factory solutions, and we grew significantly service close to the customer. And we believe that especially software and service are the main differentiators when it comes to moving to sustainability for the sheet metal industry.
Now, we've heard from Anders, we've heard from Johannes about sustainability, decarbonization, about the circular economy. What is your take on this at Bystronic?
Well, I'm happy to say that sustainability is deeply integrated in Bystronic's strategy. We really look at it from three levels. A, how can we make ourselves more sustainable? How, and that's the biggest impact we have, is how can we make our customers more sustainable? And last but not least, we're really looking broader than that and trying to inspire the entire industry to get future fit, right? So for our own industry, you mentioned decarbonization. So we're investing in photovoltaics, optimizing processes, shifting to green energy, and having e-mobility concepts. The biggest impact, as said, with customers is through our technology. So R&D has established a function called sustainable engineering, and these people to 100% focus on sustainable solutions like energy-efficient lasers, start-stop things for the bending machines functionalities, or carbon-neutral nitrogen generation. So there's so much in the pipeline that our customers can benefit from. Yeah, and last but not least, you mentioned co-creation. I think what we are doing here today and in the future is really we need to build more partnerships to make the industry, the sheet metal industry, future fit.
You've addressed partnerships. How specifically are you building those partnerships? How are you accelerating that circular economy?
So circular economy, and we heard it before, is key, right? And so we studied this in detail. It might be a very bit too much when you're never looked into this, but it's pretty simple in the end. So we need circular economy because to manage the 1.5 degrees of global warming, we learned that 50% comes from energy efficiency and 45% from resource efficiency. So for industrial companies like Bystronic, we need to rethink how we build products and how we use material. So we have our own module developed, our circular model, and it starts entirely with the design phase. So here it's an agile process, right? So sustainability, circularity, modular machine design, design for services, all starting there. And then once a machine is in the market, we have a full-fledged service program. So almost 100% of the machines will be sold with service packages, right? That helps the machine up and running. Over the use time, there's repair, there's upgrades, there's some things you need to do. So here we have really something that stands out, what we call is a predictive maintenance. So like a 360 advisor helping our customers to their timing to upgrade and make sure the machine is up and running. So we can improve uptime 20 to 30% with this. And last but not least, when you're buying a new car and you're trading in your old one, we do the same. So we are buying your old machine, we're refurbishing this, and the beauty here is that a pre-owned machine is using only 2% of virgin materials compared to a new machine, right? So, and then the cycle closes, all of this ends up back in the design phase, and we are super proud that 80% of our machines or our products are co-created already because with all of these interactions with clients and customers and partners.
Sounds great. So you already mentioned that the customers can benefit. And Bystronic has a really strongly customer-oriented focus. So how exactly can the customer benefit from Bystronic's circular economy strategy?
I think the customer would even benefit from our innovation power too, right? So I mean, a fiber laser is 40% more energy efficient than a CO2 laser. You would benefit from all these sustainable solutions. You would benefit from that service that keeps you up and running when energy prices are high. 20 to 30% uptime is huge, right? That's it. And then software is a key element. I mean, on the machine side, we already have I think, optimized the cutting process so that we are reducing the amount of recycled materials, for example. But with the smart factory solution, there's huge opportunities for our customers moving forward.
There's also a software component that is truly important.
Yeah. So so we have acquired a software house, right, recently, and together we have developed the Bystronic Smart Factory software suite. And so that tackles the entire business element. The machine level, everybody's used to, but we bring it to the production cell, to the shop floor, to the entire business, even an insight manager that gives you data about where your production stands. So let me give you an example. We have a wonderful customer in Canada who had for years doing quoting processes, and it took him several days to up to a week because it was all manual, right? He's now using our software, and he could cut time within a day now, and he's super happy, and that's it. And what we also see is we're getting a lot of new clients in that were not strategically or historically Bystronic clients buying our machines, but they're really interested in our software because it's an open system. So we can integrate third-party machines, competitor machines, because we don't mind, because it's co-creation, and we need to help the client to survive and to win in this in the future.
Well, excellent insights. Thank you so much for the time being. I would just like to sum up for our viewers today what we're taking with us from you, Michael. I think Bystronic seems to have circularity as part of its company strategy. So obviously certain elements like service and software, those are key elements of a circular economy and things that other companies can further build on under the circular economy umbrella.
In all presentations and from all speakers we have heard, the circular economy is key for the future. We are facing many challenges and there is a lot to do. Our main question is how we can structure collaboration and move on from here.
And that is exactly one of the questions that we will discuss with all of our speakers that you've heard so far. There was Anders, there was Johannes, and of course there is Michael. We would now like to give you a few seconds to ask any questions that you may have. Some questions already came in before our live show today. Any questions you have for all of our speakers today. So please submit your questions now, and we'll see you in just a few seconds. And welcome back. So thank you for joining us again, Anders Breitholz and Johannes Brenning. Now, Anders, let me get started with you. You said that collaboration was key. Where should we start with that collaboration, and who needs to be involved in that collaboration?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you're interacting with sort of your suppliers and your clients, but it's going sort of one step further. It would be a good way to start it. Like I said in my speech, to gather the supply chain and sort of set a mutual goal. I think that could be a good. I've seen it's been quite effective in places where that has been sort of carried out.
So it's not really about dictating to your supply chain what you want them to do, but about talking together, about listening, about understanding their needs as well.
Yeah, I think there's been a shift. I mean, it used to be sort of dictating, you should do that. But I think there's been a shift the last years where sort of you need your suppliers and they need you, and you have this mutual challenge to address.
Michael, let me ask the same question to you. Collaboration is truly key.
Yeah, and I think the beauty at Bystronic is we love it. As I said, 80% of our products already co-created. We are looking out actively for working with startups, and we are very open. And I like the fact that we have the customer end-to-end solution in mind. So it's not about how we win and others lose, it's how can we all win together. And that's really a beauty of our culture, I would say.
And Johannes, you mentioned the material passport, which is a true product of that collaboration and of that culture of listening to one another, of understanding each other's needs.
Yes, and maybe also to add, it's important to get in touch to all stakeholders, and we shouldn't forget the end of line, I would say. So the recycling companies, for which the digital product passport would be a very good tool to know what is really inside the product.
So they would fully understand what material can best be recycled how.
Right, yes.
All right, Natalie, you're gathering all the questions that are coming in online.
Yes, I do. But before, I would like to go a bit deeper about collaboration and in co-creation in sheet metal. So Johannes, you are a Bystronic customers. So how can Bystronic support you in your circular economy journey?
So I think the aspects which are valid for every product is also valid for Bystronic machinery, but I think I mustn't repeat all this like retrofittable, repairable, durable. I think this is very clear, which is of course special at a machinery that is the high energy consumption. So there must be a focus on energy reduction. Also, there must be a good and comprehensive service package. So it's important when there's a problem with the machinery that there's a fast reaction, so that production does not getting into stop. And also, as a machinery needs a software, it's important to have a continuously software support. Software doesn't get out of date, so this is really important. And to have a proactive customer approach when there are environmental innovations. So if Bystronic has an innovation, that we can fastly adopt them in our production.
Well, you speak out things need to change. They need to change fast. We need a lot more flexibility, Anders.
Yeah, we're coming back to that word. Flexibility, I think it's key, and that's a real challenge because it's easy to say flexibility, but there's a reason for us having a linear economy, because then you can plan your production and so on, and suddenly we have to, challenge ourselves like, okay, what if like a different size? Can we absorb these new materials? Can we have sort of a laminate? How can we get these sort of high efficiency numbers in the machines? And how do we get that to work? And that it's intellectually challenging, but if we achieve it, there are many interesting benefits.
You have a smile on your face. It's intellectually challenging. Yeah. It is a lot of fun, and there is a lot to learn.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about the projects that we're, engaged in, and it's like, how do you? I mean, it's like when you were a kid and you get this like, okay, we're going to move something that's small, but at the same time we have to move something that's big, and how do we do that? And so it's that engineer in you or that design in you gets sort of you get to get challenged. I really like that.
So we're talking about challenges. We're talking about a lot of positivity and excitement, Michael, right?
Yeah. Look, when you guys speak, that's music in the ear, right? I mean, we love technology. We also like business a bit. So that's great. And this is exactly the discussion with you, what we are having. And what can else? If you put these together, you might come up with new solutions that you didn't have in your offering, right? And that's what is really fascinating for me. I always say, if you bring great people together, something will come out of it positively, and you need the culture and the mindset to co-create, and that will bring us to the next level.
Right. So we're not going through dreary, dark times where we all have to feel miserable about the changes that are happening, but we can have that feeling of positivity that we get to reinvent a system and that we get to co-create. And that's truly exciting.
For sure.
Let's have a quick look at what's happening online, Natalie. What kind of questions are coming in? And we'll feel free to throw those out into the round.
It's about collaboration. We get the first questions about it. So are there any requirements, Michael, for recycling companies? They want to cooperate with Bystronic.
Well, first of all, thank you super much. Thank you very much. I mean, that's awesome, which is already what we want to achieve, right? So if anybody goes beyond the boundaries, what was a traditional business, and now opens up for, hey, how can I help you? That's exactly the discussion we need to take on all levels through the supply chain. Absolutely. Please reach out. It's via the comment function. Reach me out on LinkedIn. We will definitely get in contact with you.
So Michael, what you're saying is recycling companies, and I find that really interesting. So this question seems to be coming from someone from a recycling company that are saying, how can we work together? How can we collaborate?
So you have an expertise that you bring, and if we work with you like a recycling company and make you part of our design process, say, hey, what do you see immediately? What can be optimized? That we in the past, you have an easier job. We can repurpose material. We use less energy for recycling or upcycling. Wonderful. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, it's a wonderful example. We'd love to talk.
And you're saying we're happy to listen to recycling also, for recycling companies also to understand what it is they need.
Exactly.
All right. Perfect. Let's go for the next question, Natalie, then.
Of course, circular economy, it seems like to be a huge topic. Where should a company start? Johannes, there's one question for you. Where does a company should start, and how easy is it to integrate circular economy? What did you do?
So it's a good question, as sustainability is a little complex. There are many fields, there are many aspects you can reach out for. And I think it's good to start with, as there are already standards who defined which aspects are important, that you don't forget it, and give you a good guideline, for example, which materials you use, which should you avoid. So for the German field, for example, the Blue Angel, for our branch, the European level certification, or for all branches, the cradle-to-cradle standard. There are many aspects you can use as a guideline to design a sustainable product.
So you don't need to start from scratch, you don't need to start from zero. A lot of it is already out there. What is the next step? So you're starting off with those guidelines, with those standards that have been established. What then?
Yeah, of course, to integrate these guidelines into your daily business, there of course must be the concrete will, and this could also end then in the certification to also have to show your customer as proven independently that it is really integrated in your business and in your products.
Michael, you mentioned the software house of Bystronic, and there's a question about, do you have any other digitalization projects in relation to sustainability at Bystronic?
This is actually the hottest topic we are just talking about, right? But because this smart software suite is really up and running, and we are discussing with the Chief Digital Officer, how can we use it for sustainability data, energy data, and a lot is out there, and how can we optimize this? The discussions have started. We all want to do it because we're excited to do it. We have not yet anything that we could have ready, but we see from some customers the request also say, help me with the sustainability journey, like you just said. So how can I get started? And that's what we want to do, right? We want to be a service company for sustainability too, and a software house for sustainability. And I think that is all great potential moving forward, where we would like to make an effort.
I do just want to take the chance to remind all of our viewers today to actually submit your questions if you have them right underneath the window in which you're seeing me, in which you're seeing us. Just type in your questions and they'll end up directly on Natalie's pad right in front of you. Do we have another question that has come in?
Yes, we do have. Johannes, another question for you. You mentioned the product passport. Everybody's interested in the product passport. And how can we start with the transparency and this product passport?
So it is to say that there is many activities now ongoing. There are standardization bodies, the politics and the industry sitting on a table and thinking about how to develop it. It is for all a new thing. There also was from the German Normung Institute, or the DIN, a great they called it cyber lunch, and they make weekly suggestions what is to implement, how we can deal with, and also there are some branches which is already implemented a digital way of storing information. They use as the car side. So it's there's really much going on outside here.
I do have to bring up the question of costs, of return on investment. Can we afford sustainability? Is there a return on investment, yes or no? And if there is, what is that return?
Should I go?
Yeah, go for it, Anders.
I love that question because it goes back.
It is a core question that we need to ask. We're talking about the economy, which you had underlined as well. It's not just about the circularity, but it has to add up, right?
I mean, you have to have economic sustainability, and you know, often, or especially some years ago, it was a sort of, sustainability is expensive, and what I wanted to sort of come across with is that it's actually the opposite often. You know, you trim your costs, you trim your waste, and that, I mean, it goes hand in hand. And then we're not even talking about sort of the brand narrative and what kind of, like, it can be that, I mean, if you're an attractive company that is in the forefront of sustainability, you will also attract the right people that want to work with you. So I would say it's, you know, the cost of not being sustainable or greenwashing is extremely high. And I think that's very high on the risk sort of management agenda today.
So there are huge opportunities out there. Michael, you're nodding. You're saying this is so worth it.
This resonates so much,
right?
Anders. What is the cost of not doing it? If we're only looking at economic sustainability, but what's the cost of environment? What is the cost of warming and society? So I think we need to look at impact in general, right? When you look this, and very pragmatic. I mean, every company is working to optimizing processes. 80% of this have a sustainability impact as well, right? I mean, when you're reducing the amount of material in your machines, you reduce the amount of, or you have a better circularity approach in there. So we always need to, and I like the approach of just go out and look what you already have, and it will be a lot. And don't make the big thing, start with the big thing. Go with what you have, and then develop it, speed up, accelerate, and you will win an organization and the people behind you because they like, you know, I have never seen any employee in our company who said, I don't want to do it. I mean, they said, hey, faster, more, let me help.
Right, so you're optimizing your own company, and this is the perfect opportunity for you.
That's it.
Yeah, and something I'm thinking about is that often there's this, you know, fear that, we haven't started, we're, you know, and it's just like you're saying, Michael, that, you know, start. It's never going to stop. It's the same with cost reduction. We will be trimming sort of sustainability within social sustainability, ecological sustainability, economic, and also sort of aesthetic sustainability also.
Help me understand that. You're saying aesthetic sustainability. What does that mean specifically?
I love it. No, it's something that has been sort of that's been missed. Is that you know. Aesthetics, or if something can sort of be perceived valuable over time, it means that we don't throw away things. And if you're really good with
anything that is not trendy, as in has an impact on the moment, but lasts longer, would be of value.
Yeah, it's the time dimension. I mean, if you think about a well-designed chair, I mean, it can be even more valuable 20 years after. And that means that the resources aren't sort of wasted. That's the fourth dimension. But so going back to your original question, I think it's this bit like old school when people think that sustainability is the cost, is costly. It's actually the other way around. I think there's huge potential and there are huge risks if you're not on it.
Right. So we're not talking about moral or ethical standards. We're really talking about doing the right thing at the right time, sitting down and doing the math about it. Right?
And often, I think you should start off with sort of an ambition in the company, like where do we want to be, how, and then you do your mapping. So you sort of, okay, we want to reduce by so and so. Okay, and then you cut it down to pieces, and then you can have incentive programs like, okay, our bonus programs are not only based on how we sell, it can also be based on how much CO2 we have achieved to reduce, or how much circular we are or something. So it's also about getting it into middle management, the ones that, doing the nitty-gritty. That's where the real potential is.
I do want to pick up on that aesthetic sustainability. That's what you mentioned before. At Koenig & Neurath, this must be a huge topic too, as well.
Yeah, so
as you are in furniture manufacturing.
Yeah, so we call it a timeless design. So we are taking into account when we design a product that it must be timeless. And just for example, for color, it is important, as some colors come out of date. There are colors which are ever actual, like color black, color white, of course. So simple colors. So when the design is simple, then it's maybe an indicator that the products can be long in use. And we are really, this is one of our sustainability criteria, to have products which are really, timeless. And then, like in your words, you will put it in other words, but we just call it a timeless design.
Just help me understand that a little better. You said the timelessness of a product. The color is one aspect. Functionality, minimalism, are those further aspects that we need to take into consideration?
Yes, I would say this. Of course, we have a designer. He could point it out in a better way. But in my words, I would say the color is important. Also, the simpleness. So, these are maybe the most important aspects when we think on a timeless design.
Yeah, I just remember at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, there's amazing furniture, and you go, oh, this is so great, I want to have that in my apartment. And you find out these designs are 40, 50, 60, 80 years old even. So this is what you're talking about.
Absolutely correct, yes.
And also, I mean, if you think of it, going back to economic sustainability, if you look at the price per use of something that stands over time, it might feel expensive in the actual buying, but if you look at something that sort of withstands and has a second value, you see it, then it becomes quite cheap, and it becomes much more expensive with something that feels cheap but sort of dips immediately.
I think that's an important point. It's also my thoughts about it, that a sustainability product is maybe a little expensive when you invest in the first moment, but you can use it a longer time, and so the costs over the time are cheaper then. And this is how we should deal with this topic.
So calculate the cost of a product over its entire lifespan, and that's what we need to teach customers. That's what we need to talk about when we collaborate with people down our supply chain as well.
Correct.
What is your vision? And I'd like to use this question to wrap up around. What is your vision that you've got for the next, let's say, 5 years? Anders.
Oh, me first. Oh, la la.
Well, you have the biggest smile on your face first.
Because there's so many, But
feel free to talk about the next 10 or 15 years.
I like the time frame 5 years, because it's very important years. I would say that we had a discussion earlier on this. It's so important that we start mapping, the impact, and we are, do our life cycle assessments, that we know where impact occurs. At the moment, there are some companies who haven't even started that. So that is something I see as like homework that has to be done. But if I can, be a bit visionary and more like what I want to see better traceability. You were onto a product passport, that we start to give products more intelligence, like Internet of Things, so we don't lose track of it. Because if we go from product sales to functional sales, we can use sensors, we can use technology to better control the value and how much we use things.
Everyone's nodding in agreement. Johannes, briefly from you.
Maybe also to get things what you described, it is important to have a better comparison in an ecological perspective, as normally we compare just the prices, but to keep, like, we have now the energy label for energy using machineries like a fridge. There we see it in a simple way, which is the better in an economical perspective, and we will need it for other products too. And we will see that the demand for sustainable and circular products will increase, and that we will have a good legal framework made by the EU, which is also pushing this topic at the top.
Michael, a positive outlook, yet a lot to do.
Yeah, but that's fun. And, and you know, my vision is that the sustainability becomes the way we do business, right? So we don't need to discuss about this why, but we move to how. And then the companies who are really good at it should help others who need help. And that's what we all want to do. And that's where, in my belief, that's the best thing you can do, right? There's a nice purpose, and we help other people to move on. Sustainability is the way we do business, and it's profitable. It doesn't add cost. It's profitable. That's what it is.
It's profitable, and
profitable.
Ultimately, it does make sense. Now, the time has come to thank all of you and wrap up our Bystronic Backstage Lab. It is not the end. It's just the beginning, as we've just heard from all of you. So right after our Backstage Lab, you will receive a white paper that illustrates how circularity can be beneficial for your business, how software and service have an impact on your bottom line, and how Bystronic can help you to improve your energy and resource efficiency.
And of course, you can contact Bystronic on the website. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate. There you will also find the video of this Backstage Lab.
So anything that you want to re-watch, you can do that right after the show today. So a huge thank you to all our panelists, Anders Breitholz, Johannes Brennig, and of course, Michael Praeger. Thank you to all of you also for your participation, for your questions, and for your inputs.
Yes, and thank you very much for joining that was our first Bystronic Backstage Lab.
More to come very, very soon. I'm Stefan Lendy.
And I'm Natalie Zulauf.
Thank you for watching, and take good care.